All right, everyone, welcome back to the live stream. Today, we're talking about lessons I've learned running paid games in 2026. I'm going to check my audio, make sure our audio sounded good here. Don't want to mess up the audio. All right, I think we're sounding good. Will someone drop me a comment? Let me know if the audio is sounding okay. I think it sounded okay. Sounds good? All right, awesome. Welcome, Mike B, to the live stream. Welcome, Stuart. Great to see you. Happy to see everyone. Man, we already have several people in the chat. This is awesome. Mike says, sounds good so far. Excellent. Thank you so much. Well, this is good. What up, y'all? Bert is in the live stream today. Got the live stream crew rolling out. I'm very pumped about this one, guys. I'm really pumped, excited to be talking about this. There's going to be a lot of information here, not just for running paid games. Obviously, anything that's going to help a paid game will help your game at home with your friends and family too, right? So I'm excited to talk about this, but I have been running a lot of games. I have been running 3 games a week. Now I've switched to 4 games a week. So this week is the first week I've literally run 4 games this week, and I run 4 games every week now. Blue Rose says, hi, how's it going, Blue Rose? Great to see you. So I'm going to share some stuff with you. Now, I have to contextualize a little bit of this, okay? I am the type of person that wants to achieve certain types of results. I want to succeed at the things I launch into. I want to become the best I can be. I want to be the master of the game. I'm an Enneagram type 3. My personality type is the achiever. I want to go all out on the things that I care about. If they're worth pursuing, I want to pursue them 100%. Dirty Socks says, welcome everyone. If you are new to the channel, speak up, tell us, be welcome to the live stream and enjoy the ride. Absolutely. I would love to hear if you are new here. Please drop a comment. Let me know. I would love to meet you. Let's become friends. Mike says, so is paid DMing plus YouTube your full-time job now? Yes, I have officially transitioned back to full-time self-employment. I do have some other hustles going. So those are not my only income streams, but I do spend the predominant amount of my time on digital marketing, my own platform, and paid jamming is a part of that. Obviously, jam philosophy is kind of the it is the flagship of my self-employment empire at the moment. When I say empire, it's a little bitty empire. It's not very big. Philip Cass says, top T. Philip, it is great to see you. I'm not sure if I've seen you in the chat before. You may be new. Welcome to the stream. Mike says, congrats. Thank you so much, Mike. So anyway, I'm the kind of person who I always want to get better at things. I want to analyze the data. I want to check the facts. I want to learn the skills. I want to figure out what's working, what's not working. I don't want to delude myself into thinking something's working when it's not, right? In my mind, results tell the story of whether you were doing it right or not. There is sometimes this thing where I think people think they're doing it right, but it's because they're stubborn. They don't want to be wrong. It's a pride thing. It's an ego thing, right? For me, I care about the facts. If I'm doing something wrong, it obviously stings a little bit. It stings my ego, but I want to learn, right? So I've been going hard learning about running paid games, trying to make myself better at this process. I've been learning a lot, guys. I've been learning a lot. And I've been learning a lot that I mean, it's obviously going to have drastic positive impact on my unpaid games. But I'm right now only running paid games. And here's what I think is the distinction. And I think that I'm just going to say this I'm not going to ramble on about this specific thing. There are a lot of people who get down on running paid games. But here's the thing. If you are a really good GM and you want to go down the route of running games, you're probably only going to be able to run so many without charging for them before it starts to eat into your bill paying time, right? Your JOB time. So if you're a really good GM, running paid games is most definitely a viable, at least side hustle. I'm going to be honest with you right now. It's going to be hard to achieve an actual sustainable full-time income running paid games like as your main thing. That is hard. That would be really hard to do. I think it is possible. I'm not really trying to do that. I'm just trying to run some paid games in addition to my other things I'm doing. So, but running them paid allows me to run more games, learn more about the craft, and then I get some money for it that helps me to keep my life afloat, spending so much time running games and then learning about them. And for me, there's an efficiency here where then I can take that knowledge I learned and I can put it on YouTube and in books, and then I can help my audience, because that's also part of my whole thing is there's overlap here. I want to share the knowledge I'm learning on YouTube. Empowering game masters to run better games is the goal of the channel. So there's an element to where these things overlap for me, and that's what makes it nice for me. If I was only doing one or the other, it wouldn't be as efficient, right? Dirty Sock says, for new members, just call out new. Tell us you are here. If you can tell us if you run VTT or in person, that would be awesome. Tell us, for example, new VTT or new in person. Heck yeah. Please introduce yourself. I'd love to get to know you. Stuart says, I don't think you can run paid games as a living just via VTT. I think you mentioned before going after companies, big groups, events, school, and corporate events. I do believe that you would have to go that way to make it full time. Kind of event-based, like a special event-based kind of thing, and going to environments where there's not as much competition. So this sounds weird, but not targeting gaming environments, targeting with your marketing, things like your local business networking groups, hiring out for events like, family reunions, business leadership retreats. I think that these are environments that there's not much gaming overlap. But if you go into spaces where there's gaming marketing going on, you just become inundated with competition. You have to go to the places where the competition isn't if you want to really maximize, be able to charge more, get more work. It's a target-rich environment from a marketing perspective. Mike says, not new, but running VTT, unpaid for friends. Heck yeah, Mike, I recognize you. I'm super glad that you're here. I appreciate everyone who's here. Listen, I really appreciate everyone coming to the live streams, and I've been enjoying this, and I plan to keep this going for the foreseeable future. Every day about 1 p.m. CST, give or take a little bit. Today I ran a little late because I ran that game earlier. Then I wanted to eat some lunch. I was hungry, guys. My stomach was rumbling. I was like Winnie the Pooh. I was like, where's my honey? I need some honey in my tummy. That's how I felt. Griffin says, do you put any of the money you earn back into the game, such as paying for art subscriptions to services used to run the games? Yeah, a lot of it. I pay more in business expenses right now than I pay to run my life. I pull way less money out to spend on my personal bills than I put back in the business. Most of the money right now is going back into the business to pay for. Actually, to be really honest, what's going on is I'm using a lot of the same subscriptions for my games that I use to run my YouTube channel with. The games are sustaining the costs of running the YouTube business is mostly what is going on right now. And there's very little kickback for profit right now because we're so early in the game, right? Dirty Sock says, you have to write down stuff and spread the risk being self-employed. If you deploy on several things at the same time, the risk is divided amongst all different activities, some basic stuff. Yes, that's true. Also, diversifying income is good, but you can't spread yourself too thin either, because if you don't go hard enough at a thing, it may not succeed well enough to pay enough. You have to be very strategic about these things, and I'm trying to be very strategic. Stuart says leadership retreats, etc., would be amazing. Great for employee management, bonding opportunities. Pitch it to HR departments as an opportunity to see how staff can work as a team. Yeah, I think it'd be fun. And I also think it would just be fun, like, it's just a fun thing to do. It's like a manager wants to do something fun for their sales team. It's like, oh, let's play a game of D&D. Let's have someone come in and set up their awesome 3D terrain, and we'll play a game of D&D, and we'll all have a beer. It'll be like a retreat type thing. Like, I think that'd be a great environment to market running games for. That's where I think the real serious money could be made, because those places have big budgets for stuff like that. And you're not hardcore competing like you are on Start Playing as a GM, right? Start Playing is amazing, but it is all competition, right? So it drives the prices way down. Dirty Sock says, troubleshooting that works and whatnot, finding the balance and maintain that at the right moment. Yeah, and scale it. You got to scale. When you're usually new to business, generally it's about scaling unscalable activities. That's how you outflank the bigger competition. You focus in on the things that bring value that bigger companies are not willing to do because doing so is too inefficient and they love to try to be efficient. Dirty Sock says, ever consider a Kickstarter? I have looked off and on continuously at starting some kind of Kickstarter, but I will be honest, I do not know. First of all, I don't have a lot of experience with that, so I'm very cautious about it. Secondly, I have looked into it, and I'm going to be really honest. I think that model would work better if I had a bigger platform. My channel's still pretty small. To really make a Kickstarter go, I think you need more eyes on you than I get on me. I think a Kickstarter is more like a 2-year down the road thing, if anything, for me. I'm still early in the traffic game. It's very bold of me to even try to go self-employed with this smaller platform I have, but we're also growing fast. Now that I'm in it full time, the subscriber count has been going up. My view count has been going up. This is good news. It better be, right? If it wasn't, we'd be in trouble. Surfer Dude, new here, been running in person since Christmas, a VTT since mid-January, and just became a player in another VTT last week. The in-person actually inspired the homebrew setting for the VTT I run. Heck yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Griffin says, how many campaigns can you have up at one time? Do you prefer running shorter games for more groups, or would you prefer running a couple games for longer periods? Okay, these are really good questions. Let me answer this. How many campaigns can you have up at one time? I think you can have as many campaigns up on Start Playing. So I'm running all my paid games on Start Playing, startplaying.games, which is awesome. It's a great platform. Any criticisms I have of that platform do not have to do with Start Playing. They have to do with those types of platforms, which are very common, those types of platforms in the freelance world. So I'm very familiar with like that model of platform because it's like pure competition and it's a marketplace for the skill. So it's great. It does have flaws. The flaws are not the fault of Start Playing. Start Playing is running a great site on Start Playing Games. And I think they're actually filling a vital role in the hobby by creating a marketplace that did not exist before in a concrete place and giving GMs the tools to monetize their craft, all built in. A lot of people complain about the fees on Start Playing, but friends, the fees are not so bad considering all of the tech that Start Playing provides to GMs who may otherwise not know how to do that tech for themselves. So I actually have nothing but good things to say about Start Playing. Now, you can have, I think, as many campaigns up as you can get approved. I have 4 approved campaign settings on Start Playing right now, and I have 1 approved one-shot setting. So these are called settings. You have to get them approved. Then you launch adventures, which are your individual one-shots or campaigns. And then you use your setting template that was approved to launch those adventures. And that's when you choose, for the adventures, you choose your date, time, how often you're running the game, how many hours each session is, how much you're charging per session, etc. Okay, so now I think you can have as many as you want. I mean, what are you going to do? Have 30 campaign settings up? Probably not, but maybe you could. Do you prefer running shorter games for more groups, or would you prefer running a couple games for longer periods? I run right now 4 sessions per week. They're all the same campaign setting. So they're all the Darkest Dawn, gritty, grimdark, 5e, like dark fantasy in my homebrew world state of Regenesis. I run 4-hour sessions for a maximum of 6 players. I will run for 1 player. Like I'll run even if only 1 player is going to be there. So I'll run anywhere from 1 to 6 players. And I run, these are all long-term campaigns expected to run for between 100 to 120 sessions, all the way from level 1 to level 20. That's what I'm doing right now. I think the group that I've had in the longest is at level 6. So they're progressing. They've just passed the 25% mark, in the campaign. It's the same campaign, but obviously it goes in way different directions because of the groups. I have one group that's really like, they are dark and gritty and serious, which I really love. I have a group that are kind of comical. I mean, they're gritty and they're kind of fun. You know how there's some groups that are more funny and you laugh more in those games, more lighthearted, but then it's like kind of dark too, and they do dark stuff. I've got a group like that. They also collect NPCs. They're an NPC collector group. They've been collecting NPCs. They have like a whole army of NPCs. Um, I've got a group that I've got a group that is really serious and they're playing a more military type campaign. Like my other serious group, it's more like immersive role play, situational political intrigue. But this other group went hard on the warfare front. So they're literally at the front of like a war. So they're doing this, like literally they're like, the last session was them fighting a dragon who is trying to support Dragonborn army invading a city. And then I have another one that I just started today. We have one player, and I'm sure that more players will sign up, but this one is looking to be kind of like looking to be like a more, I would say, traditional adventure campaign, but we'll see how it goes. But you never know how things are going to go, man, because every group is different. Mike B says to Stuart, corporate retreats and team building would be cool, but would depend a lot on the size of employee base. Oh, 100%. Yeah. But the idea would be if you build that business to market to those corporate retreats, you would market to every corporation with an HR department within 250 miles of you, or maybe even more, right? That would be how you'd market it. You would probably market on LinkedIn, go direct message all of the HR directors or something like that. I've not gone into that yet, but I'm just saying that's probably where you would go. Okay, so now Griffin, that's the answer to your question, and I like the way I'm doing it. I think it's fun. I think that the only thing I would change is that I kind of wish I was running in person rather than virtual, and obviously I wish I was earning more from it. But I am very, very pleased with the return on the investment there. Griffin says great answers. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. All right. So here are some things I've learned. I've learned that it takes a while to get these things going, especially if you're launching on Start Playing. If you launch your game on Start Playing, it might sit there for 2 or 3 weeks without anyone signing up. And that may not mean it's a bad campaign setting, but sometimes you might publish a campaign setting on Start Playing and it might sit for 2 or 3 weeks, and then it sits for another two or three weeks, and you realize it's just not working. What's not working? There are a lot of variables. There is the quality of your game listing. There is the appeal that kind of game has with the public. There's the price point you're advertising it at. And there is the time slot that you're listing those games at. And all of these things matter a lot. And you have to get the right combination of those things in order to have a game go, right? I have found that for my game, The Darkest Dawn, which I've published 2 other campaign settings and published games in those, they did not go. They didn't work. I don't know why. I got like one person to sign up for all of them. They just didn't go. But The Darkest Dawn, for some reason, that game setting, it keeps going. It keeps launching when I post it. Thus, I found a winning formula there. And if you want to see that, click on my Start Playing Games link in my description. You can find my listings and you can look at them. You can see what's actually working for me. I have found, this is weird, man. I have a game going at 1 a.m., starting at 1 a.m. on Mondays, a game starting at 8 a.m. on Monday, a game starting at 6 p.m. on Wednesday, and a game starting at 8 a.m. on Thursday. So I've got some weird times in there. I partly think that my ability to run games at weird times when other people can't means that I'm facing less competition. I think that that's a real thing. And I also think that my game listing, I mean, I'm not going to lie, I think it's pretty well done. I think it sounds awesome. I think it sounds fun. I think that people who are interested in Grimdark Sandbox, I think that they're attracted to my game listing because I feel like I did a good job on it. Now, price point, my games are about average. On some of my games, my earlier games, I charge $20 per person per session. But in my newer game listings, I've raised it to $25 and I haven't noticed a difference. I haven't had I've had fewer signups because I haven't had those games live very long, but I'm still signing people up on those games at the same rate I was signing up people for $20. So, there are 2 kinds of people in this world. There are going to be people who are not going to want to pay to play D&D. And then there are people who do want to pay to play D&D, and they want to find the game they want to play in, and it's worth it for them to pay for it. Surfer Dude says, for those games you've been running, what's the player turnover been like? My VTT group has more or less fallen apart due to scheduling with 3 of 8 remaining. Yes, player turnover, churn, as I call it, has been a major issue in my earlier attempts at this. I have had games completely fall apart due to player churn. With that being said, I have significantly reduced churn in my games, and I have some tips for how to do that. And I'm going to share them with you because that's the biggest problem I faced. And I did a lot of experimenting to try to figure out how to stop it. And here's what I did. Number one, I started prioritizing, so what I did at first was I would bring players into the game and we would just launch. I mean, obviously I would run them through a session 0, and then they would come in and we would just launch, but there's really no onboarding to bring everyone together. I think that was my first mistake, and I had a lot of churn because of that. So I fixed that. I started doing things like telling the group that a new player was going to join and asking my group, make sure to give them a warm welcome and things like that. And then asking the new player, hey, just so you know, I want you to feel welcome. If you have any questions, concerns, let me know, because it can be intimidating for a player to come into an existing group. So I want to try to build more cohesion. This was good. This worked, but I still had churn. Next thing I did, I realized that I was having some churn because some of my players were playing like dark edgelords who were unpleasant to play with. I personally liked it, but I started to realize that some of this kind of aggressive play style was turning away other gamers. So I said, enough of that, because most of my gamers don't want a game like that. So we're going to change that. I adopted a player agreement, and the player agreement is basically I agree to play friendly, to be nice to people, not to be a butthole. And I'm going to, if I'm in the game, I'm going to welcome new players and try to find ways to include them in the story. If I'm a new player, I'm going to try to find ways to get my character into the game and give them a reason to pursue the story, right? Because believe it or not, I had some games where immersive role players would come in, and because they literally couldn't find a reason for their characters to work with these characters, they were like, I guess this isn't the group for me. But that, in my mind, shouldn't be the reason we turn down games. What we should do is we should find reasons for the characters to work together. And this is also in my best interest because I'm running the game and I want to keep players in the game, right? So I have literally in my player agreement, in existing players, you agree to work your best to give new players a reason to join you, like invite them, be inviting, be welcoming. And then new players, you agree that you are going to actively find reasons to work together with this group and justify it with your character. This actually helped to decrease churn by a lot, believe it or not. This really did help, okay? Now, here's another thing I did. Another thing I realized was that I think I was prioritizing new player growth over what my current players cared about. So the next thing I did, I made an agreement with all of my players, and this is what I do with my games. Once a player is in the game, or if a group of players start a game, whatever, they are the party. Anyone new coming in is now told, here's how we go. Here's how we're going to do it. You play one session with us, and the group gets to check out your vibes, see what they think. I obviously have a choice in whether you join the game permanently or not, but my group has the ultimate say. If they don't like you, I'm sorry, but you won't be invited back for another session. I honor this with my players. I said to my players, after we have a new player, I say, hey, did you like them? Did you like the vibe? Do you want to keep them around? And generally, they always say yes, because new players are usually fun and cool people. And the vast majority of people I've gamed with start playing are very cool. But giving my players that attention, like letting them make that choice, I think has had a huge positive impact on keeping my existing party happier with new players coming in, because I think they feel like their game isn't going to get invaded by just new randoms without their say. Also, I think that this lets new players know that there's a certain level of value in this game that we're not willing to compromise just to get another paying player in here. It's like, I don't care if you're paying or not. The truth is, this is my table, and I'm going to prioritize what my current party wants. And if they don't like you, you're not going to be invited back. I don't want your money. if you're bad vibes, right? So that making that clear and adopting that and being super upfront about that has actually significantly reduced churn as well. So all of those things have reduced player churn. Now, there are some other things too. I think that I was experiencing some churn because I wasn't doing a great job in the beginning of spotlight control. I think that this is one of those examples of things that I didn't think was as big a deal with free groups. But when you start getting into paid groups, the reason people are paying to play D&D is because they want to show up consistently and play D&D in the style that they want. If they get that from your game, they're going to stay. If they care about it, if they want to play D&D. If they cannot get that from your game, i.e., if you're bad at spotlight control and they don't get consistent playtime, why would they come back? They're not going to come back. And I learned that the margin for error here was way smaller than I thought it was. So I do believe I experienced some churn because the in-game experiences of some players was bad because I was struggling with spotlight control. Now I try to maintain way tighter structure of who has spotlight for how long, trying to make sure that all players get to pursue the storyline arcs they want, get to do what they want with their characters, get to be in the spotlight, right? These are all things. When I solved this problem, not only did player churn cut back, but I also noticed my existing players got way more excited about every game session. I think that the spotlight control was really an issue for me early on in this experiment. So this is one of those skills that I had to really learn better in running paid games. Like I said earlier, I like to try to be the best at things. And when I figured out this was a problem, I had some players mention it to me. It's like, okay, we need to solve this problem because I want players to say, the game is awesome. I just love it. Instead of being like, I felt like I didn't get to do anything, right? You don't want to hear that when you're running a paid game. And you don't want it to turn players away or give them a bad experience, right? So that is another lesson I learned that really helped me in that process. Here's another thing. When I was working a full-time job and trying to run paid games, I will admit the quality of the experience was not as good. I was always tired. I was always running on fumes. I barely had time to do between session work. And I think I lost players because of that. I think that showed through enough that it hurt the experience for the players. And so I had to fix that. What really fixed that was when I finished my job, my job, and I went back to full-time self-employment and I was able to prioritize my paid game activities. That I feel like really bolstered the energy and the glue in my games. Like now I can get really more precise and disciplined about things like post-session notes, communicating with my players, making lists of all the things the players want to do every session and creating an outline for the session that'll help me to remember the things the players want to do, all these things. So, and I want to talk about that too. We need to talk about building player goal outlines in your games because this has revolutionized the excitement that comes with the game. So we're going to talk about this in a moment, but I'm just telling you that made a huge difference. There's no way I could have improved more in that area while working a job. There wasn't time. There just wasn't time to do it in my life. I literally didn't have the hours to sleep and work and run the paid games I wanted to play and have kids and dogs and anything else going on. So that was another thing. Now I want to get caught up on some of these comments, guys. Let's see here. Red Flag Reflection says, was wondering about daytime games. Thanks. Mikey B says, yeah, that would be key. Get the group to agree to actually play like a team. Yeah, I agree. That's been very big. Mike also says, I always require that my players have their PC tied to at least one other PC in the party. That is awesome. I don't currently do that, but also with the way that I bring players into my games, another thing that I've done is I've actually completely cut out session zeros. I stopped running individual session zeros for new gamers. Instead, I've developed an onboarding process via Discord where I message them all the information and then we converse back and forth on Messenger. And then I don't even speak to them on a mic until they jump into the first session. And the reason I did this was because I was running 1 hour, 2 hour session zeros for all these players, but it was not resulting in players staying. I had churn anyway. It started to seem like it had zero positive impact on player churn. Players would just be great, great, great in the session 0, and then they would bounce, bounce, bounce after playing a session. So I cut out session 0s to save that time, instead spending that time on prep work for future sessions and whatnot. And then I have an onboarding process that I go through with them. We work out their character and everything, blah, blah, blah. And then when they jump in the game, what I do is I have them create their character in either their homebrewed world state or in a published D&D world state. It's like you can create your character in any world you want except mine. And then I have the convergence, which is a magical phenomenon that snatches heroes from other places and brings them to my world. And there's a whole story. There's like a whole like subliminal plot arc about the convergence. And some people believe that this is the world's way of bringing heroes from another place because the world is in trouble because of like a big magical threat that's happening. But anyway, they just get snatched up from their reality and put in the adventure. And so they just appear. And this way, it's actually, it makes sense that they don't know anything about my world. They don't know anything about the culture of my world. They don't know about the religions. Why? Because they've never been to this world. So they get to role play through the experience of learning about the world. And this means there are no big upfront lore dumps. This has been very successful and I love it. And so that is another reason why I do not tie PCs together, generally speaking. And I have noticed that it seems to be working well in that way. That being said, I do sometimes have players request that their players do come from this world. When they do that, we usually do a lot more talking about it before the game. And sometimes I will jump into a half-hour session 0 with them, but that is not usually what we do. Okay, so AWOL Warrior says, so few people are capable of that level of reflection and accountability. Respect. Oh, thank you, AWOL Warrior. I really try to take accountability. I'm going to tell you what a book, I'm going to pitch someone else's book right now. A book that changed my life when I read it was Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. It is like Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink is all about personal accountability, personal responsibility. And that book, when I read that book, it changed my life for the better. My life started a much better upward trajectory when I read that book, because before I read that book, guys, I hate to say it, I was kind of a victim. I would always blame other people for my problems. It was always someone else's fault. It was never my fault. I was always blaming other people when I failed. Oh, it's not my fault. If only this had been different and this and this and this. But friends, if we make excuses, we will never win at anything, because in order to take power over your life, in order to take power over the circumstances of your life, your projects, whatever you want to do, whether it be your relationships, your work, your business, your children, right? Anything in life, if we do not take power over it, we cannot like master it and become the best at it that we can possibly be. And when we also take power over it, we have to understand that we lose the ability to blame it on other people. Because what happens when we blame things on other people? We're giving away all of our power. When we pull the power into ourselves, we say, it's always my fault. I should have known better. I should have done different. This hurts. This is hard because it's us taking accountability, but it also gives us the power to change our life for the better, because we're pulling all that power back into ourselves, guys. Mike says, that would be my biggest problem, balancing work, home, game. Heck, I have that problem now, and I'm not a paid DM. It's a real struggle. That's why I think paid GMing is not a bad thing, because people who are really invested in the craft, they can't afford to do it, man. There isn't time. It's so labor intensive. Buckaroo Bonsai, hey Buckaroo, I don't think I've seen you before. Welcome to the live stream. Says, I've run paid games for 4 years as a part-time job. I spend as much preparing at least as running each session. It is hard to get the value of your effort. You are correct. It's not really like, it doesn't pay super well at that level, right? You'd have to get way up there. People would have to be paying a lot of money per session for you to actually make good money, or you'd have to be doing it for some kind of like some kind of corporate retreat event business, right? Technobabble says, greeting all. Greeting Techno, great to see you. Mike says, Buckaroo, I run VTT Unpaid for Friends and we rotate DMs. Most don't grasp how much time prep can take, especially for VTT. This is true. VTT maps are a real thing. It's harder to improvise. With that said, I'm getting better at it. I released a video not long ago about how to improvise in VTT. I gave my most updated techniques, but it's still labor intensive. Surfer Dude says, "Oh, that's an awesome idea. Just plop. Welcome to the jungle." Yes, I love it. I think that's so much fun. And what's really fun is when my long-term invested players start educating the new players about the lore of my world. And this is so much fun. Nothing brings me as much joy as listening to players excitedly talk about my world to other players in a way that it really matters to them. It is so incredible. I love it so much. This is part of what emotional resonance is, when it's emotionally resonating. Now, by the way, I have an ebook, The Advanced Art of TTRPG Game Mastery, Deep Philosophy, Insights, and Tactics for the Experienced GM. Now, you can find a link to this in the description. It's still available for a new introductory price. If you want all of my 24 years of GM wisdom about how to run emotionally resonant games compacted into a 50-page ebook, learn how to run emotionally resonant games that your players will love to come back to again and again, grab that. Link's in the description. I will say I have had a lot of success building emotional resonance, and all my secrets, man, are in this book. So many things I'll bet you haven't thought of in that book. I worked really hard on it, and I think it's the best thing I've ever written. Also, if you grab it, it'll help to support the business, and I thank you all so much for this. Now, Surfer Dude says, oh, that's awesome. Okay, Fun Stuff says, it's been 4 months, and I've ran 4 games on SPG. Brother, when did it start to pick up for you? I'm dying out here, to be honest. What was the thing or time when you started to pick up? Okay, so 4 months is a long time. I'm going to tell you right now, if a game doesn't pick up in 2-3 weeks, oh, that's normal. But if you're going a month and a half, there's something wrong with your listing, or there's something wrong with the time. Something isn't working, right? So I would love to see your listing, Fun Stuff. And if you don't want to drop a link to it or something, I might go check it out. But here's the thing. These 4 things have to be right, and they have to have synergy, and it has to really click. Your listing has to be like the type of game that people would want to play. It doesn't have to be all mainstream, but it does need to be something that someone would find valuable. Number 2, the price point has to be right, the price offering. Number 3, you have to find the right time, because the wrong time can kill a campaign, because maybe nobody's looking at that time, right? And sometimes you don't know until you test it, right? Anyway, and then the 4th thing, what was the 4th thing? I can't even remember now. I think is the marketing of it. You have to write your title in a good way. You need your image to be looking good. You have to stand out from the crowd, right? So these things, if these are not all working together, you're going to suffer, and you may not even know why. So sometimes you have to mix things up. But at 4 months in, and you've only run 4 games, I'm assuming you mean 4 sessions, there is some kind of problem. You probably need to revamp somehow. Drop a link in the comments to your profile. I'll take a look at it right here on stream, and I'll give you my feedback. Fun Stuff says, or I'm sorry, Aaron Cruz said, taking on a role means holding those responsibilities. Take the watch and don't abandon it until relieved. Absolutely. That is what a good leader does. That's what leadership is all about. Blue Rose Lion says, in other words, own up to your fluff up. Yes, 100%. Storch Makes Stuff says, hello, newer DM online. Hey, Storch, great to see you. Welcome to the live stream crew. I'm so happy to have you. What kind of game system are you running? Scott Spallina says, what is your typical level range of your campaigns, and what do you prefer to run? Tier 3 and 4, or tier 1 and 2? People keep saying that, and I don't know what that means. Tier 3, tier 4, tier 1, tier 2. What do tiers mean in a D&D campaign? Tier 1, tier 2, etc. In a D&D campaign, tier 1 refers to the initial stage of character development where players are just beginning their journey. This tier is characterized by the party's ability to tackle smaller stakes. Okay. So I think what you mean is starting at level 1, I think is what you mean. So I like starting at level 1. By far, my most successful SPG games have all been literally advertised as levels 1 to 20. Full campaign, 100 120 sessions planned. That is what my most successful games have been on Start Playing. That's what I always do. I like that. I prefer that. I think that's really fun. Obviously, there's backstory, like they found their way to adventure, right? That's kind of a thing. But anyway, that's what I do. So tier 1, I guess, is where I like to start, and it has been by far my most successful tier to date. Okay, so let's see here. Mike B says, join the Discord too. Get more input from multiple DMs and players. Absolutely. Join the GM Philosophy Discord. Link is in the description. We have all kinds of things going on in there. It's free, and we are at about 600 GMs strong right now. Also, if you're new here to the chat, drop your name, drop the word new, introduce yourself so that I can get to know you and say hi and welcome you to the live stream crew, guys. Well, I live stream here Monday through Friday, 1-ish p.m. I try to do it Monday through Friday. So, I love having everybody. Buckaroo says, I've been a musician in bands for about 30 years. I write my own music, fun. I play out. I've recorded CDs. I'm also an artist. I do graphic design work as part of my job, and I've done it as a job. And I've written fiction for work as well. So I've seen 3 different artistic, creative, entertaining endeavors and how they're similar to being a DM. Differences are slim. Most people still do not realize that providing joy and entertainment, just like a comedian or a musician, is a very similar type of calling. It is a vocation if you want it to be. I agree with you 100%. And if you are gifted and you have the talent and the desire to do that, then turning it into a business, I think, is very viable. But a lot of times artistic people struggle with the operations side of a business, and they struggle with sales, right? Those are 2 things. You got to get comfortable selling out here, man. And you got to get comfortable selling yourself, and you got to know how to market yourself, because without proper marketing, your business will suffer, even if you are a brilliant artist. This brings me to another point. One thing that has helped my games on Start Playing is that I have a YouTube platform and I pitch my games. I have a Discord and I can pitch my games. I have some of my most hardcore gamers in my games right now are not people who just randomly found me on SPG, but they are gamers who went to SPG and joined my game because I said, hey, I'm starting a game on SPG, and they wanted to game with me. So that actually has been a huge boon, and that's kickback from my work building my marketing, right? So this also plays into it, guys. I believe building a personal brand for yourself, if you want to be a paid DM, is going to be super important. Starting a YouTube channel or a TikTok or an Instagram account, right? And learning how to get views and leverage and traction so that when you do have a game, you can say, hey guys, I started another game, and you can put it in your profile, and then you might have people go through and sign up because of that. You need every sign up you can get, guys. Mirrodin Whitefall says, be vigilant to every curveball thrown your way as a GM. 100%. Yes. Surfer Dude says, yes, finding the right time that works for everybody has been my biggest struggle, having players in both Europe and North America. It is a struggle. And sometimes it's hard to find that niche. I'm so surprised that some of my most successful times have been in the daytime during the week, like when most people would be at work. But there are people in different parts of the world and people with different work schedules, right? So it seems like I'm getting those people in my games. Mike B says, tiers is a newer terminology, typically breaking level progression into 5 level chunks. Okay, I got you. I'm starting to get the hang now. Games and Graphics says tier 1 would be level 1 to 5. Oh, I see. Yes, no, tier 1, 100%, no other question. I've dabbled in starting at other levels, don't like it, don't want to do it. Tier 1 is where it's at. That's where I want to go. AWOL Warrior says, I feel like starting at level 1 is ideal for newer players. Otherwise, all the abilities and mechanics can get overwhelming fast. Yes, they can. And some GMs, I noticed, don't want to go past level 12 because they're a little intimidated by how crazy stuff can get. But I love the higher levels, guys. I love it. I love it. Games and Graphics says, for newer players, that is best. It allows them to really get comfortable with the mechanics before you get into higher level shenanigans. Yes. Okay. I want to say something about, I want to say something about being comfortable running games. I haven't talked about this yet. This should have been earlier in the video probably, but I think that you do not need a ton of experience to run a paid game, but you have to be a good GM and you have to be proficient at it. So I think that, being able to run free games and succeed at them and really crush it This is going to be important if you want to succeed as a paid GM. But I've also heard GMs say, I could never run a paid game. I don't have tens of years of experience. I've only been playing for 2 years. It doesn't matter. I don't care if you've only been playing for 4 months. What matters is not how long you've been playing. What matters is your ability to be able to handle a party, handle the dynamics, handle player desires. All of these things are very important. That matters more, I think. Okay. Fun Stuff says, I hear you and I love the vibes and I appreciate the advice. I'm actually on my 5th iteration of my listings. I also did not mention that I have a game this Saturday, my 5th game. Heck yeah, Fun Stuff. If you've had one iteration of your game go and you have players signed up, then it's probably working. See, so if you have players who did sign up for your game, then your proof of concept is right. So what you might be dealing with is a time issue. If I were you, I would post games at all the times you were available to play and see what times get bid on, right? Because if you have players playing your game listing, that must mean your listing's good enough to attract players. And I call that proof of concept, okay? That means it's already proven that it can attract players. So why aren't you attracting more players? Time would be the next thing that I would work on, I would experiment with. Mike says, I admit I prefer lower level play. It feels more dangerous. That is fun. It's fun when it feels dangerous. It's fun when an Eldritch Blast feels really powerful. I love that. At lower levels, that's how it feels. James Madison says, hi, new. James, I am a DM for a group of 6 people. Your live came up on my feed if you wonder how I found you. Heck yeah, James. It is great to see you. Welcome to the live stream crew. The goal here is to empower game masters to run better games. We're all about running awesome TTRPGs. I appreciate you. I'm glad you found us here. Talking about running paid games today. Guys, do me a favor. Hit that thumbs up button. Leave me some YouTube love. Give me some YouTube juice, guys. We got to get to 10,000 subs because my dogs need food and I need to pay this light bill. So speaking of going full time now, we're in it to win it. It is the real game, guys. If you tuned in one day and you see that I don't have any power, you know what? I ran out of money, couldn't pay the electric bill. On that note, grab my ebook, The Advanced Art of TTRPG Game Mastery, 24 years of running games, emotionally resonant games that players want to keep coming back to, packed into 50 pages. It is my best-selling and best-written TTRPG book to date. Really poured my heart and soul into it. I'll bet you're going to read a bunch of stuff in this book that you've never thought of when it comes to running emotionally resonant games. 24 years of experience packed into 50 pages. Make sure you pick that up. Links in the description. And I want to say thank you to everyone who has bought a book. And I want to say thank you to everyone who hits the thumbs up button on my streams. I appreciate you so much. I want to say thank you to everyone who's joined the Discord. I want to say thank you to everyone who's left a comment. All of these things are so helpful to me. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. From the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate you. Buckaroo Bonsai says, I am running a Kingmaker campaign. Oh, I love Kingmaker. So much fun. They are at level 19. It will go into the 23, 25th levels at least using epic legacy games and rule books. Hell yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Love it. Did they start at level 1 or did you start them at 19? Starting at 19 is ambitious. That is ambitious. You are brave. You are brave. I at least want to lead into it with some idea of what nonsense they're going to pull, right? So good for you. Mirrodin says, I'm personally intimidated by the thought of running higher level games as a GM. I understand because it gets crazy. It gets wild and crazy. And there's a point to where you have to trust your players because there comes a point where you don't know what the hell is going on. There's so much. Everyone's doing such high level stuff with these spells and blah, blah, blah. And unless you're just an absolute maniac and you know every single ability of every class, you're not going to know what the heck's going on. So there's a big trust that comes with players. And I do trust my players. I always do. I believe, I think in my whole career running games, I've only encountered one legitimate cheater. And that was a weird situation, man. And he didn't end up playing with me for very long. But that was actually I've played with min-maxers, I've played with munchkins, I've played with like war gamers, all kinds of these things. Fine, love it. Min-max, be a munchkin. But when you're cheating, dude, that's weird, dude. Cheating at D&D is a weird thing to do. So I've not really encountered it very much. And sometimes people make mistakes. That's different than cheating. I always trust my players unless given some hardcore reason not to. Surfer Dude says, I don't know, man. My players, VTT and in person, and both are at and started at level 3. They're always so afraid to do anything, thinking they're going to die, and encounters aren't even that scary. To be honest, most are newer. Although I do agree that starting low level gives them confidence, lets them learn the characters. Also, it's easier, I find, to set up encounters, etc. at low levels. Yeah, it is. I think low levels are fun. I really like what I really enjoy. Like usually they'll be at level 1 for just one session, and then session 2 and 3 they'll be at level 2, and then we'll play 2 or 3 more sessions, and then they'll become level 3, and then it kind of slows down a little bit, right? But we get to level 5 pretty darn quick. And then, I like to go through those lower levels. That's what I usually do. And I like that. I love it when we play the first session as a level 1. It feels dangerous. You throw a couple Eldritch Blasts and you feel like you really blasted somebody. And like someone hit you with a sword and you went down to 1 HP, and it's like, oh my God, gives you like a healthy respect for the world. And then you level up to 2 and you feel like you're twice as powerful. I think this is a fun thing. Buck says, to make highest level D&D encounter building easier, I use MCDM's revised CR rules with our own tweaks. I have a good system for encounters. It's not perfect balance. It's challenge symmetry. That's awesome. I like that. That sounds awesome. Mirrodin says, one of the people I play with cheats, but when you cheat as a player, the only one you are cheating is yourself. Oh, man. Come on. Like these... Man, tell this person, stop cheating. Don't do this to yourself. Respect yourself. Respect the game. Respect the GM more than that. This is dirty business, man. But I understand it. It sounds like you're being nice about it, and you're trying to be diplomatic about it. And I appreciate that. And I think that speaks volumes about you as a person. It's just cheating at D&D is such a weird thing. People who do that is so weird. Surfer Dude says, oh, that's a really aggressive leveling system. Honestly, I like it and might give it a try. I'm used to staying the same level for months on end. Well, yeah, when you get to higher levels, but at lower levels, I tend to make it pretty fast. Mike says, I used to be hardcore for XP leveling, but 5e level progression using XP is so fast. It makes it hard to work class ability gains into the story progression. I used to love tracking individual XP for players and having them level up at different times. I thought that was so much fun. With that being said, I don't do it nowadays because it is labor intensive, and I think it can create feel bad moments. I've had it create some feel bad moments. It's also almost impossible to exactly judge how much XP everyone actually deserves without being unfair about it. Waz is in the chat. Morning, mate. Solaire is the highest level so far for me. My home game IDM is 1 level behind, so I'll try to keep that gap. I'm really looking forward to entering the higher level of play with Grom first and being led magnificently by DM Ramos. Yes. So Waz, the Warren 1000, we play together in a campaign on Sunday nights. Really awesome. He is playing Tarnik, an orc paladin. I'm playing Grom Izak, lawful evil minotaur bard, and they've been going together from level 1 all the way to, I think we started level 1 and now at level 11 fighting a boss fight against a devil and just keeping on going. I had to bow out of that campaign while my life was a mess last year, but it's still going good. And then I've also had the pleasure of having Waz in several of my games. Waz was in the Barrenlands playing Hector, a death cleric, and is now playing Thaddeus, High Collar, Thaddeus Silent Weave High Collar, a Goliath Warlock in the Darkest Dawn. So great to have you, Waz. Great running with you. Love it. Looking forward to Sunday and Monday as well. AWOL Warrior says, I tried cheating one time, just ended up rolling 1. Instant karma. That's funny. That is funny. Instant karma. All right. So on this topic of paid D&D games, I want you to drop your questions if you have any as we're wrapping up. I've got about 6 more minutes here. This live stream went fast, man. This was a fun one. Everyone was really dropping great questions and dropping great stuff in the chat. Really love it. Oh yeah, I got to give a shout out. Waz mentioned being led magnificently by DM Ramos. Got to shout out DM Ramos. Dungeons and 20s on YouTube. William, you can find his games at Dungeons and 20s. Awesome GM, starting to create some good YouTube content too about AI and how to use AI to run D&D. Kind of controversial stuff. You should go check that out. Dungeons and 20s on YouTube. Mike B says, real quick, how long have you been doing paid DM gigs? I started, I think, in December of 2025. So we are only I'm not even 4 months into it yet. I'm not even 4 months in. Mike says, and what is your least favorite part of paid DM gigs? My least favorite, okay, that's a good question. It's hard to have a least favorite part of it because I love running games. I love it. I literally am having so much fun when I run games. But my least favorite part of it, I think, is this was a problem I had. This is a good question for you to ask because we should talk about this. Early in the process, I was getting really stressed out about players joining and leaving. I was getting really stressed out about kind of the money part of it. And I was like wondering, wow, can I even do this? Do I even have what it takes? Am I going to make enough money for this to matter? Am I going to be able to, do this am I going to be able to do this as a side hustle? If I can't do this, does that mean I'm a bad GM? Does that mean that there's something wrong with me? Like this was the least fun thing to go through while I was starting that process. And I wrestled with that and I wrestled with that. And I really had a hard time with that. And every time a player would leave, I would just kick myself. I'd be like, damn it, what did I do wrong? This was not fun. This made, I ran paid games for like a month and it was fun. Then I started having more games kick off. Awesome. But then I started having this player churn and I was like, what the hell's going on? So then as earlier in the stream, I started just working through the problems. And here's what I've come around to realize. And this is why when you say, what's my least favorite part? This was my least favorite part, but thankfully I do not experience this anymore. Here was my least favorite part. My least favorite part was when I started focusing too much on the money. I started blaming myself irrationally for every player leaving and having issues that were impacting my games that I didn't understand. Once I started figuring out what the issues were and I started solving them and started working better. Once I stopped thinking about the money and I just had fun running, I stopped kicking myself and beating myself up when I didn't feel like it went perfectly. When I stopped blaming myself for every little thing that went wrong, I want to take responsibility, but at the same time, if every little thing that goes wrong, I just beat myself up over it, that's not good. It hurts the fun of the game. So I had to learn to treat my paid games just like I treat my unpaid games, which is enjoy the craft, get into it, care first and foremost about the story being told. And that's what's the most important. Everything else is less important, so focusing on that story and then enjoying the story creation is the most important thing. Don't worry about the money. Do what you can about the technology. If someone leaves, sometimes it's just because they weren't a good fit for the game and it's okay. Keep trying to make every session better. Learn what you're doing wrong and try to get better at it. You're going to probably have fewer people leave. Some people will still leave just because it's not their game or maybe because their schedule didn't work out or whatever. Arethico says, I've done several in-person paid gigs for years, mostly one-year Strahd games. Online play is another beast entirely. It is another beast, totally. Mike says, thank you. Those are important things to consider and be prepared to deal with. Yeah, 100%. And I think that we need to stay focused on the value of the game, stay focused on the value of the story, and don't let the money come in and mess up your joy of the craft. I've heard a lot of people say, I wouldn't want to make it a job because it would ruin my favorite hobby. I understand why people say this, but I will say, I feel like I've pushed past this. That was happening to me in January and February, but now I've pushed past that. When I play a game, I'm here to have fun. I'm here to role play. I'm here to play with the players and money. Once I get to where I'm starting to do session prep and I'm getting ready for session, I don't even think about money. And the reason for that is because I've learned to just trust the process. And if you do a good job and you run a good game, you're going to have players. There's no shortage of people out there who want to play good D&D. So that's an abundance mindset, guys. We have to have an abundance mentality. Surfer Dude says, as a GM new to VTT and having played mostly in person for 10 years, where are the best resources you recommend for VTT? I feel that's a big hurdle for doing paid D&D. It is a big hurdle. I believe that, well, I just use Discord and Owlbear Rodeo. I record my notes with Craigbot, and then I play music over the Discord channels when it works with PancakeBot. That stupid bot, I love it and I hate it. Half the time it doesn't work, but when it works, it is so darn good. I really want to find a better way to play music. I want to play music during my games over Discord chat, and I want to play it from Spotify because I have a whole Spotify playlist for my D&D games, and I want to play Spotify music. However, PancakeBot breaks down and doesn't work half the time. So it's very frustrating. We're still working on that, but that's all the tech I use. Usually I make maps with either ChatGPT or Grok or Midjourney, and then I can edit them in Incarnate if I want. I'm not an aggressive map maker, man. I'm not even that great at making maps. I do just good enough to get by, just good enough. Mike B says, Arethico agreed. Online play is, in my opinion, a lot more work than in person. Online is much harder to improv. It is, but you get better at it. It's just like anything else. You learn how to use the tools. Arethico says, World Anvil is best if you're interested in world building. That sounds awesome. I've never used World Anvil, but I keep hearing it recommended, and I'll bet it's awesome. It's probably smarter than I am about world building. It's probably an amazing tool. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for coming back to another episode of this afternoon live stream. I will be back tomorrow with the final live stream of the week, Friday. Do not miss it. I appreciate you all. Do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button. And then, and then on Sunday evening, watch Dungeons and 20s to catch me playing Grom Ezek in action. I'll post that in my Discord, though. Make sure you join the Discord, GM Philosophy Discord. Links in the description. Bert says, later, y'all. Have a great day. Absolutely. Have a great day. Roll some D100s for me at your next game, guys. I'll see you on the next one.